It's the Innovator's Mindset with Leah Ellis. There we go. Leah, just meeting Leah here. All right. I've just been sitting talking with Leah Ellis. She actually is, am I right, the head of, is this your organization, the Society of Child Entrepreneurs?
Founder, executive director, the whole mess.
Yeah, and so we connected, and I just find it really fascinating some of the work that you're doing, how it connects to my work with innovation and education, and how people are looking at there's so many different opportunities for kids coming out of school, and maybe weirdly enough, even while they're in school. And I think you have some stories there too. So if you could just kind of tell a little bit about who yourself, who you are, what you do today, and how you got there, I think it is a great place to start.
So I am Leah Ellis. I'm the founder and executive director of the Society of Child Entrepreneurs, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a club for kids who run their own businesses as children. I start kids at 6 years old, starting running and managing their own businesses. And I regularly tell parents, if your kids can add and subtract within 20, I can teach them how to run a business,
Hmm.
uh, which makes it so much fun because I have the best stories of kids who are just tiny and adorable. I have a 7-year-old face painter who face paints for $1. She did a Renaissance festival and she was explaining to an orc what face paint was. And it's one of the best pictures I've ever seen in my life.
And so, like, how, like, you told me this a little bit before. This actually came from some like personal inspiration why you started in this first place. So, how did this all begin with you?
All right. So there's a really long story, but the kind of medium length story is I was starting a business during COVID and I was trapped at home with a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old while their dad was deployed. So I put business training videos on the big TV in the living room so that I could supervise the kids and watch the videos. And my 4-year-old decided to watch them with me. And then at about 4.5, she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, I want to start a business too." I was like, sweetie, you're 4. And she said, I didn't have a good reason why she couldn't start a business. So I let her start Melody Paints at 4.5 years old. And so now she's 10 years old with a 6-year long entrepreneurial
Oh,
journey story. And she does her own speaking on her entrepreneurial
oh,
journey. Um, and in the process of that, I realized she was learning so much and we needed to offer this to more people. So we started the Society of Child Entrepreneurs in 2024 to build this out to help more kids and also find some peers for my daughter so that she could talk to somebody her age about business and not just me all the time.
so like I'm like almost we should have had her on the podcast too, right? And so there's an open invitation there. I'd love to hear from her too.
She does do podcasts with me sometimes, but she has strep throat right now, so she doesn't want to talk.
Okay, totally fair. And so, tell me, like, as you're going through that progression, like, what are some of the big takeaways that? And I know that you're speaking for your daughter, but what do you think is some of the takeaways that she's had so far, in her young entrepreneurial career?
I think one, she's not afraid to speak up when she wants something to happen. And I think part of that comes from as an entrepreneur, when she does business fairs, like she has to talk to any stranger that walks
Right.
by. And she has to instantly be comfortable enough to say hello and start a conversation. So she's not afraid to put herself out there a little bit. And that rejection of people walking by or rolling their eyes and not saying hello doesn't get to her the way that it can sometimes when we're not used to it. Because she's like, whatever, law of large numbers, 10 people walked by, one person stopped. Good. I made money off of that one person. Um, so she can
Praise her.
really go with, yeah, she can roll with the punches. She's got a lot of resilience out of having to just keep doing events. And another one is just her massive creativity and her ability to go talk to anybody. She's a Girl Scout, and we were going to plant a tree on Earth Day in our city park. I thought that was a big deal. We're planting it in the city park on Earth Day. And she says, we're not celebrating enough. Mom, I need you to call the Chamber of Commerce and see if they'll do a ribbon cutting for the tree. I, once again, back to when she was 4 years old. I'm like, why? Whatever, fine. I figured I'd call the chamber and they'd say that's not really what we do, and it would be over, and I wouldn't be the bad guy. The chamber would.
Mhm.
The chamber said yes, but also said let's do a ceremonial groundbreaking because it's a tree. We should dig a hole for it. So then they decide if we're doing a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting, we should probably read something. Melody goes and checks out 6 different books on planting trees from the library, and none of them are the right vibe for her. So being a writer, I had to sit down and write a poem that made her happy that she could read. So then I had to write this long poem So now I've written a poem. She's got a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting. Then we needed something for the girls to hold. So I had to hire an illustrator to illustrate my poem so that they could hold illustrations of the poem. So we have now custom art, a poem, a ribbon cutting, and a groundbreaking to plant a 2-foot tree
Right.
because my daughter said, I want this to be a bigger party at 7 years old.
Sounds like he already has an employee too.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
Maybe it's an internship.
Yeah, it's definitely an internship. I get nothing from no financial compensation for the work that I do for this girl. And I just literally was like, well, I guess if she doesn't like any of these books, I'm gonna go write a poem for her. So we are working on now taking the art and the poem and binding it so that it can be a book that other Girl Scout troops can read at their tree planting ceremonies.
It's funny because I grew up, my parents own a restaurant in a small town in Canada, and a lot of the skills that, lend to my work today, where you have to talk to everybody. Like, you can't ignore a customer, right? And so you learn to be able to connect with people in a comfortable way. And it's something that I'm very proud of. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're like the biggest celebrity, I'll just come up and talk to you. It does not matter to me. And I think that, really lends itself. When I moved here to Orlando, a friend of mine said he just knew everybody. And I said, how do you know so many people? And he's like, I make it my business to know people. Like, that is literally, that networking is really, really powerful. Now, someone's probably listening to this and thinking like, come on, like 10 years old, this is way too young for this. And so why do you think this is so crucial, even though at the youngest of ages, for kids to learn?
So I never remember the exact percentage, but it's somewhere between 80 and 90% of subconscious beliefs are formed by the time you're 7. Like, this is the stuff that's ingrained in your personality, becomes second nature, becomes your inner voice. So if we start these kids really young saying that their ideas matter, they have the ability to do things, they can be creative, they can be innovative at that kindergarten age, then their entire future takes on this trajectory of a belief in their own ability rather than a belief in the grown-up doing it better. It also gives us the opportunity to see their creativity without the being jaded by impact of life. I mean, you and I can see a problem and a kid can see the problem. They're going to solve it in an entirely different way, right? Because we're going to be stuck in all of these things that won't work because of our experience, where they're just like, well, what happens if we test it?
Right. Well, in Innovator's Mindset, one of the things I talk about is really crucial to having, that mindset that you're talking about is not just being problem solvers, but problem finders, like actually identifying things that matter to you and then posing solution. And I think that's a really important thing. As you're talking and saying like these beliefs are formed at a very young age, I think about how so many schools are like kindergarten, they're like pushing kids to college right away. And I don't necessarily agree with this because I think there's very different paths, but you shared a story before we got on the podcast, and I thought it was really interesting about someone in the Society of Child Entrepreneurs who was like very focused on college, but then you also talked about you shared with her how basically some of these skills that she's learning right now are very crucial. Can you share that with the audience?
Right. So I had a brother and sister, and mom signed them both up. And brother was super excited because he wants to be an entrepreneur and sell his art forever. And sister was like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a therapist. She's 11 years old and she already knows what she wants her future to look like. And so she didn't see any reason to have entrepreneurial education because she's college bound. And entrepreneurs are people who don't go to college. And so I had to explain to her, like, no, look, what kind of therapist do you want to be? Are you going to be in a practice? Are you going to be like, what's your theory? And she said she wanted to be private practice. Well, then I had to explain to her, okay, private practice as a therapist is entrepreneurship. You are running that business. You're in charge of solving problems, managing your employees, taking payroll, getting inventory. All of that is your job. You are the entrepreneur and the therapist, which means this education does apply to you. It doesn't have to be college or entrepreneurship. They can go hand to hand.
Yeah. And when you were talking about this, because one of the things you talked about is like, you have to learn to market your business as well. And I thought about I'd hate to go into the dentist. It is like my least favorite thing in the world, but there is like a dentist office. I think they're out of Colorado and I'm in Florida, and they make the most ridiculously hilarious TikTok, Instagram videos. And if you go in the comments, like, it does not matter where people are from. They're like, I'm coming to your office. And it's like interesting how they get attention and do it. Not necessarily talk about their practice, but like being human and, being fun, and people like, want to be around that. So I just thought that was really, really compelling, because that is part of what we do. Now, when I was looking at the website, and one of the things that really stuck out to me is you talk about entrepreneurial spirit, leadership, and I think you've touched, very well on those things. You also talk about financial literacy, which is something I'm very interested in, especially with kids, because when I was a kid, like I think about how my parents never really taught me about investing, and I don't blame them, because there is no like E-Trade or SoFi or any of those things. So you like would have to call a stockbroker, and I don't understand how that they would even have done it at that time. But we have like access to way more information now, and I'm a big believer. Kids, the best time to start to invest is 10 years ago. And so like you should start it as soon as possible, because that grows over time. So when you talk about financial literacy with kids this age, like what is the focus for your organization on that idea?
So before we started the Society of Child Entrepreneurs, my husband and I actually had a financial coaching company, and I wrote a curriculum for kids on financial literacy and money mindset. And again, those subconscious beliefs, even regarding money,
Right.
are formed by the time they're 6 or 7 based on how they watch mom and dad handle money. So we teach kids that no matter what fancy name you give it, like investing or stocks or whatever, the only thing you can do with money once you've earned it is spend it, save it, or give it. And in order to be financially healthy, you have to spend, save, and give money. Those are all three an important part of financial health. And so we talk to them about how to set a budget, how to price their product so that they're making profit on it, what percentage they need to spend, what they're saving, what they're giving, what's personal money, what's business money, all of those different things that they need to be able to keep a hold of, but also explaining to them that money is a tool for reaching goals. Money is not the goal. Like we're not just out there like, how much money can I gather, but how can I use money to reach the goals that I've set for myself, whether it's college, whether it's a new car, whether it's a bigger building, what are we using the money for?
Yeah, and like I actually, and this is probably a little too much information for everybody listening to. My oldest daughter is 9, and it's weird because we are new permanent residents in the United States, so I could not invest for her until she was actually a permanent resident, like that would go under her name. But I've like taught her about investing and kind of going through the process. And now she's actually making decisions. Now I vet everything, but I teach her this because it is the skill that I want her to understand. Like, hey, when you actually buy a stock, you are owning the company. Like, so do you want your name attached to this company? Where do you see it long term? How has it grown over the years? What do you kind of see? And so it is a conversation I'm trying to start with her. And she's actually very interested in that development. And so I'm trying to put my kids, and, she's not like I kind of feel bad because my other daughter's 5, but she probably could have started when she's 4, according to, what you're doing. So I think, my son is 3. So we're trying to teach them along the way, because as much as, you want to have like money allocated for your kids and, put them in a good situation, the most important thing is to teach them how to do this for themselves, because I'm not going to be here forever. And so I think that's a really important thing. Last question I'm going to ask you. So Society for Child Entrepreneurs, I apologize. Society of Child Entrepreneurs. Is this is it, I know you're in Kansas. Is it everywhere? Like, how would a student or a kid become a part of this, or a family? How do they actually connect with you?
So right now, our in-person programs are only here in Kansas.
Yep.
Our curriculum, Ignite, Empower, Lead, will be available within, my goal is 24 months for any educator or school district or private school or homeschool parent to buy and have in their classrooms. And then we have our book, our Astra and Zeke book, that's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble for anybody. And as we grow, because we are small, as we grow, we'll be available in more and more places. So if you know somebody who really loves this idea, make sure they're following us. So when we're ready to launch in their area, they can take over their own chapter.
And I think one of the things that really matters that you shared is, it's not college or this, but you can start this early, and then, you can do it for a big chunk of your life. And then if you don't want to go to college and then you just change your mind, you can go. Like, you can actually go later in life. You don't have to go right when you're 18. And so there's so many skills that you're learning through the process, developing there. So you can actually check out the site, Society of Child Entrepreneurs. I will put a link to the book as well. But Leah, like, I love the work that you're doing. I think it's really important. I hope so many people connect with you as well, and connect with the website, and see some of the stuff you're doing. So thank you so much for your time and talking to me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time.
Yeah, no, I love this stuff. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you everyone for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day.